I went outside and I threw up.
Oh,
Yeah. Not a good sign.
like a physical thing or like an emotional thing?
No, I think, you know, I'm a fainter, which means I haven't fainted in several years, but since most people don't faint at all, I'm a fainter.
I understand.
But I recognize the feeling, and I had the feeling really. My doctor says she has ample time, maybe 20 seconds of going, will feel quite right. I feel lightheaded. So I excused myself and I went and I sat down, where I felt a little bit better. I left, turned around, went back to the bathroom, threw up, and I thought, what's on my heart? What's doing this? Because it isn't the procedure that does it. I don't know. Emotionally, I don't know.
When in April I had a appendectomy, you know, and ever since then I've gotten intermittent like bouts of vertigo.
They're the pits.
They are. I talked to my doctor. She gave me some stuff, but she's like, you know, you'll probably have these, but they'll get less and less frequent.
She show you how to deal with it.
Yeah. So
You know, that does work to do it for yourself.
the like 5 point,
Is it Ehlers?
some sort of technique.
Something with an E. Yeah, the doctor set out to, like Heimlich, he set out to find a way.
Hopefully that's not it, because
No,
vertigo is very unpleasant.
well, especially if it's, why would it be permanent?
I don't think it's permanent. They didn't really
It
have.
will diminish.
Yeah. It was sort of strange. You know, it just reminds you that for all we know, we certainly don't know everything, and there are things that even experts are like, I don't know. Just
I was laying in the love seat in our house in Portland, and I was laying too far back, and so I went like this, and I pushed myself up. I like flung myself up to, have you ever done that? You kind of extra lurch, and I knocked the crystals out of whack.
oh,
And I went, oh my God, quick, give me a bucket. And I vomited and vomited. There was nothing there, but that's the reaction. I vomited and vomited. And I couldn't see the doctor. I should have been more forceful, but I felt like crap. And I couldn't turn over. I couldn't walk. I couldn't even go upstairs to go to bed. And she couldn't see me for like 2 more days. And we talked and talked and talked and talked. And she talked. And then she adjusted it, and I walked out fine.
well,
That's very good. Good morning. May I offer you? Thank you.
coffee. How is it? Okay.
Did I give you more than one? That's fine. People go out.
Some say hot shit. Really wasn't right.
Get some protein.
So we'll just be small.
Pass that? I didn't.
Who needs the water?
Who needs what?
You guys need one? Somebody needs water.
Rabbi's office? Rabbi has the fair. Who asked for it?
Rabbi.
Oh.
I said that family wanted water.
Some
Yeah.
of them is there in his office.
What did he bring me?
I mean, I've only been in for a long time.
Robert
I've been to the women's by Rachel's house. Yeah. Well, good, I was afraid our timing would do it. But you were right. I did take the back road.
Sorry.
You need to put them on your agenda.
Sorry.
They're going to move.
Okay.
It is still leaking, and we need to see a cardiologist.
Right.
I don't know how soon we know. Yes, I don't know if it's soon enough. So I'll figure it out. Well, I don't see it. I know it's kind of, this reminds us of me. Obviously, it's leaking for a long time. It just got worse. So, it didn't hold. It didn't, maybe it helped a bit. Maybe it helped some, but it's not enough. Yes. Oh, that's. I
I'll put them.
Nice to see you again.
Oh, no way.
Hi. Awesome. This morning to get my coffee. I was up at 4 o'clock.
Do you want me to get you something?
There is, well, you make, I mean, there, just so you know, there is coffee across the street at J. I mean, like, there's a coffee kiosk, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, between this and yeah, between events, there should be.
I'm okay. He makes the best coffee I've had in a while. So it's a little tough.
So did you make it for pasta last night? Or you did? Oh, she made it.
I was
That's because Gabrielle's not allowed to do it. You know, it's
Yeah.
very hard to not, you know, help.
And after, in the middle.
With all the
noise.
That's a life skill.
You know, it's not a big group.
It's like I'm even jealous of people who can sleep. I mean, like he can go to sleep instantly on planes, trains.
When I'm driving.
Hopefully, you probably have a robot that drives for you or something.
I do, yeah.
Did you see all this equipment? You would have liked it.
I was looking at the structure.
Yeah, he was looking at like how the house was.
Oh, were you
Doing
brought
his
in to do
job.
something?
No, we were trying to figure out what to do with they were describing they were very similar when they started life. That's hard to believe. Yeah.
As you know, the whole the 50s ranch. That was the whole neighborhood.
Right.
Slowly.
They grew.
They popped
grew,
their
yeah.
tops.
Yeah.
And
And moved them up underneath.
Yeah, exactly.
we first of all we didn't do it.
Okay.
Some,
Whoever
but some, but no, they didn't knock it down. Isaac, they popped the top.
That's kind of what you're talking about.
It's just that a couple of walls. We found
So,
some of the original construction.
Yeah, they did. If you think about it, because I don't know if he's been inside, but he's been inside recently. So the staircase, right, is the push out. That wasn't, that whole piece wasn't there.
It actually makes a lot of sense now that of your house that it's really
You can see it from
it's hot. Yeah. Can't take it anywhere. Good thing it wasn't water. Good thing it was water.
But yeah, good thing it wasn't red wine.
I'll stand in front of you.
I don't think you're allowed to do that. In the Toros. Although I guess we could so figuratively.
It could have been this much worse. Incredible day.
Thanks for
Come
getting
back
that.
from work. Good job. Have you met her before?
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Okay.
we're friends.
Okay.
We met one, but we're friends. We're friends. We're all friends.
You can see there's a beam.
Quick drying.
All right, you're
Stainless
good.
steel.
You're good.
It's beautiful. Stop it. Just before the rabbit. Spices. Don't want to get smoked by a rabbit. Yeah. That's super cool though.
It was helpful.
Yeah. But it opens up to possibilities. How to think about it.
Well, because whoever the realtor is will be familiar with the fact that all of these houses are different, reimagined. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I mean, if it's, the rebuilds are more like the person who's gonna buy it and live there versus the real estate agents who are buying these places, scraping them, and then completing them. So, in fact, it is a little different. But we'll see. Like, and from our standpoint, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be a construction project for 18 months.
It'll be loud.
And it's not really any shorter. Yeah, no, but it's like the flip versus the rebuild. I mean, Megan's was a year and a half, right? I don't think that was any shorter.
The construction team there's an older brand about making noise before 7:30.
7. Which you hate.
Which, yes, but they would come in and do this sun salutation with their hammers and just bam, 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 bam,
At
bam,
7.
on the plywood, just making a total racket. And then you didn't hear boo from them for another 3 hours. Then you heard a saw start up or something. But it's like, we're here, we're entitled. Bam, bam, bam.
That's what it is. You never hear the alarm?
Got it?
What do you like to have when you're waking up?
Yeah. We used to have a flicker.
Woodpeckers.
Yeah, oversized woodpeckers. And we had cedar siding on the house. It's called a drum. And they would just have like a machine gun. I'm out there in the morning throwing rocks in my underwear. Shut up.
We got hardy plank sided. That like that concrete.
The first week they started, it was like,
Go to a different house.
yeah, they do.
Exactly.
Just as much. It's funny. We go back in. Alright, we're gonna go check on the folks.
Okay, Mark was back. Mark went back.
stars aligned.
Some people don't know. So, yeah, a little bit.
Shamayim ba'aretz Ezri me'im Adonai Osei Shamayim ba'aretz Ay 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 תן עמות רגליך ינום שומריך הנה לא ינום ולא ישן שומר ישראל אדוני שומרך אדוני צילך על יד ימינך יומם השמש לא יכך וירח בלילה אדוני ישמורך מכל רע ישמור את נפשך אדוני ישמור צאת חבריך מעתה ועד עולם. Like to join in reading the English of that psalm, Psalm 121. Many of these books do say property of Har Hashem. I feel okay about that because Bill and Marian were members of Har Hashem before there was a Bonei Shalom. It says, please, anyway. I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai. maker of heaven and earth. God will not let your foot be away, your protector will not slumber. See the protector of Israel, neither slumbers nor sleeps. God is your guardian, God is your protection at your right hand. The sun will not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God will guard you from all harm. God will guard your soul, your going and coming, now and forever. It's very hard to believe that just 10 days ago we were remembering Bill here in Boulder, and now we're honouring the memory of his wife of almost 65 years, Marian Safran, Malka Tzipora Ba'Pel B'Melech. It's hard for me to imagine the impact of losing both parents, both grandparents in such a short space of time. And our hope, our prayer is that they're back together in a different kind of realm. One of the memories that Frida shared yesterday was of at the end of a long and rather loud day, and there was music playing, and Bill asked Marian to dance with him. And that image of this elderly, beautiful couple dancing together has really stuck with me, and I'm just imagining them and invite you to imagine that they're dancing together again in a different place. We'll be hearing from Gabriella and Josh and Eva and Frida and Marian's niece Anna, who of course have long and deep and beautiful memories of their mother, grandmother and aunt. So I'm going to keep my remarks fairly brief. My own memories of Marian, who I only ever saw with Bill, was of a very sweet, kind and quiet person. I learned so much about her from talking yesterday and other times with the family, especially about her precise and meticulous nature, which we'll be hearing more about, the way in which she noticed all of the details that most of us don't in her striving for perfection. Marian was very practical and grounded in ways that frankly Bill was not all of the time. And they were a great compliment to one another. In the Torah this week, we read Parshat Yitro with its transcendent, heightened, big vision description of the revelation of Torah at Mount Sinai. And immediately, the following week, we read Parshat Mishpatim with all of its minutiae, the details of how to live ethically and spiritually now that we have the covenant of the Torah. Marian was more Mishpatim than Yitro, and perhaps Bill was more Yitro than Mishpatim. This did not make her rigid. In fact, I think from everything I've heard, no one more fits the phrase, God is in the details, than Marian. That was her way of expressing who she was in the world. And this did not make her rigid or formal, as she also had a great appreciation for humour, for cartoons, for the arts, for photography, and along with Bill, created a home that, according to her wonderful granddaughters, was a magical place. Fun and sometimes a little dangerous. In a quiet way, Marian was very funny, even when she insisted on correcting the details that might have been shared by someone else. Bill and Marian were accomplished intellectuals, but did not push or pressure Gabriella and Josh, but inspired them both through who they were to achieve their own academic and professional goals. Marian never wanted nor needed to be the center of attention, but was somehow always in the action and always helped those around her to become who they needed to be in the world. Marian was probably the first ever girl to have a bat mitzvah in Scranton, Pennsylvania, born in 1939, and so you can work out what year she had her bat mitzvah. And even though Marian and Bill were not super religious, Jewish values, Jewish culture, Jewish practices mattered deeply to them. And she would always light candles on Friday nights, and they would have Shabbat dinners together, as well as attend services often here at Bonei Shalom. Always they would come to observe yahrzeits, honouring the memories of their own family members. There's a teaching in the Mishnah in the first chapter of Pirkei Avot, which is attributed to Shammai. Shammai omer aseh toratcha keva, amor ma'at v'aseh harbei, v'hevei mekabel et kol adam b'seve panim yafot. Shammai used to say, make your Torah, and I can read into Torah the way we walk in the world, make your Torah precise and fixed. Say little and do much, and receive all people with a pleasant countenance. Make your Torah precise, make your Torah fixed, say little, do much, and receive all people with a pleasant countenance. This teaching could really describe Marian, the precision and integrity of how she walked in the world, her quiet, soft-spoken nature, and her very practical, efficient approach to life, along with the warmth with which she greeted those around her, always able to observe and to notice what the rest of us may have missed. May the soul of Tzipora Bat Rachel V'Melech, Marian, Safran, be remembered for a blessing, and may you, a beloved family, receive comfort and strength and be held in your grief. Amen.
Amen.
And now we're going to hear from Gabriella, reflections of her dear mother.
Thank you for being here. So, as with Dad's service last week, I have taken on the assignment of giving a biography, but this time of my mother, Marian Safran. Mom was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania in 1939. She graduated as the valedictorian from Central Scranton High School in 1957, where she also wrote for the school literary magazine. She got a BA in Latin at Barnard, graduating a bit early in February 1961 so that she could get married in March to my dad, Bill Safran, a grad student at Columbia whom she had met through mutual friends. She worked for Publishers Weekly, and then she got an MA at Hunter College in Latin and a credential to teach public high school, which she did for a few years in Manhattan. After she and my dad moved to Boulder in 1965, she taught composition and correspondence courses for CU. She worked for the Committee on the History and Philosophy of Science, and she took on volunteer work, including designing the curriculum at the brand new Har Hashem Hebrew School, and editing the Whittier Elementary Student Magazine, and the Bonei Shalom cookbook. For many years, she worked as a copy editor, both freelance and on staff at Westview Press. She and my dad, and at some points Josh and myself as well, lived in Israel and France over extended periods, and she learned the languages that she needed for that, and to communicate with my dad's large and not always English-speaking family. When Dad had a stroke 5 years ago, Mom was starting to develop dementia. My parents moved to California 3 years ago to be near us, and Mom's illness made her more seriously disabled about a year after that. She developed flu just after Dad died on January 22nd, and she died 9 days later on January 31st. Mom was a careful and precise person. She had patience and attention to detail that I strive to imitate, but usually cannot. This was especially apparent in her work as an editor. Josh, I think, will talk more about the encomia that we found in her files from authors who were grateful to her for improving their work. I think she actually loved editing. I remember how pleased she was once when she found a mistake in a text, in a quotation in a text, that was in Finnish, a non-Indo-European language that she did not know at all. How was it possible that she saw a quotation in Finnish and knew something was wrong with it? I think this was about her attentiveness. Having seen some Finnish at some point, she had paid enough attention to develop a sense for how it was supposed to look. There were other ways, too, that Mom was attentive to the world. She really saw old objects. She loved to shop at thrift stores and garage sales. I wore all used clothes before it was trendy. I was ahead of the curve. Mom was very self-aware, and I remember her saying about the thrift store habit that she sometimes imagined herself as a gatherer in a hunter-gatherer society, collecting bargains, or as she would say, mitzias, to feed the tribe. But of course, this was also part of her attention to money, which she managed for the family. Dad referred to Mom as his finance minister. Mom's father had been an accountant, and she was very good at math. She kept figures in her head, and she was aware of how money worked in any situation in the world, another area where I wish I could be as good. In addition to collecting bargains, Mom was always on the alert for funny observations to bring home or to tell other people about. She was always copying and sending cartoons or funny emails or finding funny mistakes in the newspaper. When we moved our parents to California and we looked through their files, we found a collage Mom once made of 5 attempts by the Boulder Daily Camera to correctly spell the name of the French island of Mont Saint-Michel. The original error, and then every day a new errata notice, each with a new mistake. My sense is that by the end of this time, the people at the camera also thought this was pretty funny. I have been thinking a lot about how Mom reminded me to take my time, not to be in such a rush, and to look at things carefully. I remember this each time I see a thing in the world that Mom taught me how to look at. Like, Tupperware containers have numbers on the bowl and the lid. And that's how you can know which lid goes with which bowl. You don't have to just keep trying. And cardboard mailing boxes say on them how many pounds they can hold. But the second time you use a box, you have to divide the amount in half because they lose some part of their integrity over the first experience of mailing. Mom's carefulness and attention to detail made it much easier for all of us when she got dementia. Going through her files for medical stuff, bank accounts, insurance, etc., with her neat handwriting and carefully computerized spreadsheets, she loved computers, I felt that the hyper-competent mother I had grown up with was helping me every step of the way in caring for the less competent person she had become. Even as her dementia worsened, Mom remained careful and attentive. More than most people with this disease, she knew she was sick for a long time into the illness. Doctors kept saying to us, "Your mother has unusually high insight." Thus, although she had always enjoyed driving, she was willing to stop when we saw that it was time. And after Dad's stroke, she was very happy to have care workers in the house and to figure out exactly what they should be doing. And she was willing to move to California. She saw this was necessary for her own care and that of Dad's. Even as she stopped being able to locate herself in space and time, and then she lost mobility and became wheelchair-bound, she retained her attentiveness to what was happening in the moment, to emotions, and always to words. I remember a moment when she fell and I had to take her to the ER. And the nurse said, "Can you lay on this side?" And she said, "Not lay, lie." I'm grateful to Mom for the attention she paid to everything, to words, to things, to people, and especially to us. May her memory be for a blessing.
Before Josh shares his words, I'm just going to move this back a little bit because I'm aware that there are people watching on live stream, and I'm hoping that this microphone is going to pick them up. So excuse me a second. That should be fine. And welcome to those of you who are joining us by live stream. Marian's son, Josh.
When I spoke at my dad's funeral on January 25th, I could not have imagined that 9 days later I'd be standing here again talking about my mom.
Can you speak up a little more, Josh?
Okay, I'll start over. When I spoke at my dad's funeral on January 25th, I could not have imagined that 9 days later I'd be standing here again talking about my mom. Of course, I owe more than I can say to both parents, but it seems especially hard to do justice to the impact that my mom had on our lives. While my dad may have been the more obvious role model for me to follow based on gender norms and his professional success as an academic, it was my mom who did most of the work, more of the work at least, of actually raising me and Gabriella, especially when we were younger. She went back to work part-time and then full-time as we got older, but continued to run the household throughout. Looking back, I realize how much attention and warmth and love she poured into us, not just making sure we were clothed and fed, but also taking care of us when we were sick and helping us to manage our lives in innumerable other ways. When I was little, she also indulged my desire to turn everything into a math problem or math game, and treated me and Gabriella with intellectual seriousness, echoing what I said in my remarks about my dad. Yet I was lucky enough to be able to take it all for granted. She was just my mom. And if I started out as just a bundle of cells within her, a lot of her remains within me. I would echo what Gabriella said about our mom being patient, observant, self-aware, exceptionally well-organized, and funny. Given my mom's precision and attention to detail, as well as her excellent ear for language and her ability to make sense of complicated things, it is no surprise that she became both a teacher and an editor. Later on, she combined these interests by co-teaching a class on copy editing at the University of Denver. I was lucky enough to get comments and suggestions from her on some of the papers I wrote for school, and that was basically what taught me to become an editor myself, which ultimately became my career. To be happy as an editor, which my mom seemed to be, one has to be okay playing a mediating role. When an editor is really good at his or her work, it is the writer who gets the credit. And my mom was okay not being the center of attention. But the authors she edited at Westview Press recognized how special she was. In her file of encomia from her time there, authors describe her work as terrific, splendid, fantastic, outstanding, incredible, nothing short of brilliant, and the very best they had ever seen. with 6 different authors referring to it as superb. Another author was amazed, astounded, and astonished by her work. Yet another described developing a sense of awe as he went through his manuscript. Finally, one was ecstatic to have been edited by her and thought she walked on water. While not every author was in awe of my mom or thought she walked on water, many recognized how lucky they were to have her help. My parents definitely seemed to recognize how lucky they were to have each other. While they were similar in important ways, intellectually curious, good with languages, analytically sharp, appreciative of ironic humor, and essentially kind, they were also, as Rabbi Mark said, complementary. With my dad's academic work not only bringing them to Boulder, but also giving them the opportunity to live abroad and travel all over the world, which my mom loved, and my mom managing the household and the financial and practical matters at which my dad was less skilled. My mom also had a stronger interest in literature and art, with my dad giving my mom credit in particular for introducing him to classical music. It was also my mom's interest in literature and art, and living in a household in which everyone was attentive to language, that led me to become the theater enthusiast that I now am. And I hadn't realized until listening to you, Gabriella, how much of my interest and ability in math was probably inherited from Mom as well. One way in which our mom's math abilities combined with the organizational skill and maybe frugality mentioned by Gabriella was in her systematicity in running her kitchen, in having Tupperware containers of all sizes, along with their matching lids, as well as the spatial conceptualization ability to recognize the exactly right-sized container for any kind of leftover. My brother-in-law Michael coined the term to Marianize, meaning to rehome leftovers from a previously right-sized container to a smaller, newly right-sized container. I think my mom was proud to be economist. And while I noted earlier that my mom didn't need to be the center of attention, she also didn't mind being it. Going back to her early years, as Rabbi Mark mentioned, she was probably the first bat mitzvah in Scranton, which reflects, I think, a commitment to learning that she shared with my dad. Jumping forward, I was lucky to be able to spend so much time with both my parents in recent years, most notably in the months after my dad's stroke in May 2020, and this past fall when Gabriella and Michael were teaching in Paris, and I was the family member in residence near our parents' assisted living in California. Echoing what Gabriella said, what was remarkable about our mom as her dementia progressed is how much of her pre-dementia self she was able to retain long into her illness. Her insight, her ability to understand both words and emotions, and in return, being present with her meant accepting her as she was. We may now be grieving her loss, but I am grateful for her to have been as present as she was for as long as she was, and to be reminded of the person she was for all that. May her memory be for a blessing.
And now Marian's niece, Anna, is going to share some memories and reflections.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. So Marian and my mother were sisters, and Marian was 7 years younger than my mother. My vivid memory of Marian, since I'm 10 years older than Gabriella, is that she was a beautiful bohemian with long black hair, and she was much hipper than my mother. She smoked cigarettes, and she was married to a European with a slight accent. I have a constant image of her reading the newspaper while smoking, and I wanted to be cool like her and Bill. Once when my family was visiting Boulder when I was around 9 years old, Marian, Bill, and my parents went out for the evening, and I was left alone in the house with my older brother, and I tried smoking one of their cigarettes. And I knew exactly where they kept them, and Josh reminded me that the brand they smoked was Parliament, which was very appropriate. When I was 12 and Gabriella was 2, I helped Aunt Marian care for Gabriella in Paris, and we went to the same park every day while I was learning French, and we would go in the Monoprix and read read Babar books. At that time, she was pregnant with Joshua, and she needed time to rest in the afternoons. I, too, recall her love of comics, specifically Peanuts. And when I was living in Israel for a long time, she would cut out the cartoon strips and send them to me in the mail. I had many occasions to visit her and Bill growing up in Boulder, which is where I was born, and there is a connection to me being born here and Marian ending up here because one summer and it turned out it was while she was in university, she came to visit, and so when Bill was being offered university places, she said, you could go to Boulder, I've been there, it's really nice. I have a vivid memory of Bill calling her name, Marian, in the house to help him with something she was more capable of, and I was very aware of how dependent he was on her. Fast forward many decades later, a few months after Bill's stroke in 2020, the first summer of COVID, I came back to Boulder to help care for Bill and help Marian for a month. Marian was in the initial stages of her mental decline, and it was hard for me to see her in that state. The woman I admired for so long was no longer as capable as I wanted her to be. I wanted her to simplify things in the house, especially the kitchen, but Gabriella reassured me that would confuse her more, and I relented. I happily accepted the assignment this past October to make her a birthday cake, having just flown from Paris the night before. We celebrated with cousins in her small assisted living apartment, not realizing how little time remained for her. This past Friday evening, coming back to Palo Alto after having buried Bill, we had Shabbat dinner, and we knew that Marian was having trouble breathing. I wanted us to be in limbo, for this time to remain static, to delay the inevitable. Alas, that was not the case. Hearing Gabriella, Joshua, Eva, and Frida describe their memories of Aunt Marian helps me to remember what it was about her that I admired most, and I'm grateful to be part of her memorial.
And finally, Marian's beloved granddaughters, Eva and Frida.
Last week, I found myself frantically editing my remarks at Bill's memorial to cut them down and to cut down on the crying. In the process, I took out what I was calling my dictionary introduction, but it feels only appropriate to revive it here in honor of my Grandma Marian, or as I presciently called her throughout my youth, my grammarian. I always have to look up the distinction between eulogy and elegy. In this regard, Marian might be disappointed by my poor memory, but pleased by the detail-oriented process of defining. Defining the two, though, doesn't really help, as I don't really know why you would write one without the other. The dictionary offers that a eulogy should be praising the person you've lost, and an elegy mournful of that loss. But of course, the more there is to praise, the more there is to mourn, and they seem like two sides of the same coin, praising what we had and mourning that it's gone. So this is both an elegy and a eulogy for a woman who knew the difference, who was a constant presence and a guiding hand throughout my life, and whose absence will be deeply felt. Marian Safran dressed me until I was 12. She didn't make it feel, though, that I was dressed by my grandmother, and so perhaps as a result, I felt no embarrassment about the subject until some well-meaning 7th graders abducted me for my 12th birthday to save my social status and buy me my first pair of skinny jeans. No, it didn't feel like she was dressing me. Instead, she would strategically acquire my sizing from my mother and then hit the Boulder thrift stores for weeks, maybe even months in advance of each visit. When I arrived, there was a magic closet in the basement of the house, which someone, fairies, shopping gods, no, Marian, had filled with new clothes, my size, appropriate for both the California and Boulder weather. I would leave with a bigger bag and a bigger ego, my outside appearance transformed to resemble the woman my grandmother knew I could be. Marian was good at doing that. As everyone said, she was good at making her presence felt without putting herself at center stage. Good at helping you tell your story while also gently correcting your word choice or grammar, letting you go ahead but not holding your hand, remaining in the wings to cheer you on. This makes sense given her role as an editor, as a woman who, coming up in a period where she could have easily settled with a role as a high school teacher or a secretary, got a master's degree, and taught college courses alongside her husband while raising 2 children. In an oral history done, I think by someone here with Bill in 2010, you can hear her clearly in the background of the recording, correcting the details, ensuring the accuracy of the recorded events while letting Bill narrate, reminding him to tell the funny part about the horse and the wagon, and casually downplaying the effort she put in to keep up with his polyglot proclivities and exotic personal history. She was eager to facilitate, for example, to facilitate a perfect meal, sometimes refusing to sit down for the first 30 minutes of Shabbat dinner while she shakily doled out each bowl of soup, filling, refilling, putting away, reheating, and producing the next delicious course. This was annoying, but as a frequent Friday evening host, I now find myself doing the same. She was frugal, and sometimes humorously so, insisting on only ever boiling the tea kettle at half full, even if she had to do it 3 times to satisfy demand. But when you got a cup that had just been topped off with freshly and painstakingly boiled water, the love and care it took to make it while expending exactly the right amount of energy was palpable.
We had a verb used in our childhood home, which has been mentioned. Now something that we have started to say in our respective homes throughout the U.S., Marianizing. It's a verb that means savoring every last bit of leftovers and finding a perfectly sized container for each morsel of food. To have one's name become a verb in such a widely accepted way is such a unique experience that I truly strive for myself. Not only does it describe this niche activity that we don't have a word for in English, but it also describes who Marian was to her core. She was someone who cared about the little things, even things that were only nibble-sized. She saw value in them all. She lived her life with her values on her sleeve. She was unabashed to show her care, so much so as to create a verb of her name. Marian's thriftiness, valuing clothes that others might have cast aside, food that was almost used up, and words that were perhaps underappreciated, has lived on past her life. Not only has the value of thrift been picked up by me, my sister, and seemingly our entire generation, every time I put on an outfit, I look down and I see at least one item that was passed down to me by my grandmother. I am grateful to feel her memory on me and all around me, reminding me to appreciate the little things. Not everything about my grandmother, though, was little. Her voice was very loud, and there was a lot of loud communication in the Safran house when we would visit. I attribute it partially to the shared declines in hearing capacity of both my grandmother and my grandfather around the same time, accompanied by the complete carpetedness of the entire house, making the audio travel quite scarcely. Sometimes it would scare me as a child, coming from a small house with parents who rarely raised their voices, also with hardwood floors. I remember feeling particularly anxious about it one day. There was a lot of loud communication that day. But at the end of it, my father started playing the piano. And my grandfather took my grandmother's hand and held her close as they swayed across the carpeted living room. They were just in love at the end as they ever were. They truly completed each other, as others have mentioned. She took care of him, and he took care of her. They traveled all around the world together. And in some way, I like to imagine that my grandma just couldn't stand being away from my grandpa for too long.
As Marian got older, some of her sharper edges softened, and moments that otherwise would have been almost silent became more audible. Death after cognitive decline could maybe, in other circumstances, seem like a fait accompli, a loss of one's memory and sense of self preceding their physical passing. But that was not the case here. Although Marian may have forgotten precisely when or where she was, she never lost her sense of community, her smile when you came in the room, her desire to be included, her firm grip or her hope for the next day. It's comforting to think of her as she slowly lost touch with the details of her prior life, keeping a hold on Bill in their adjoining rooms, sharing a moment in the morning or a mini challah roll on a Friday night. It's comforting to know, or at least to intuit, how much being together meant to her, and to think that, either through bare physical proximity or on a spiritual or future level, the two of them will remain together for a long time hence. May their memory be a blessing.
I feel sure Marian would be extremely moved and pleased by all the words that have been said and not require any editing of them. Thank you all. Beautiful sharing.
There would be editing, that would be with love.
Right. Let's sing Psalm 23, Mizmor David, which you can find on page 2 of these books. If you read and sing Hebrew, please feel free to join. Mizmor David, Adonai roi la'echsa, v'hi notesh yabitzeni, al mei menochot yenachaleini, nafshi yeshoveh, nafshi yeshoveh, ינחני במעגלי צדק למען שמו גם כי אלך בגיא צמאווה לא אירא כי אתה עמדי שבדך ומשענתך שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני תערוך לפני שולחן תערוך לפני שולחן תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי תשענת בשמן ראשי תשענת בשמן ראשי תשענת בשמן ראשי כוסי ראיה אך טוב החסד ירדפוני כל ימי חיי ושבתי בבית אדוני ושבתי בבית אדוני ליום ימים יאללה לילה לילה If you would like to join me in reading the English of this psalm, bottom of page 3. God is my shepherd, I shall not want. God makes me lie down in green pastures, leads me beside still waters, and restores my soul. You lead me in right paths for the sake of your name. Even when I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I shall fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You have set a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever. Before we conclude our service here, I just want to tell people what's going to happen next. I hope that many of you will come and participate in the burial at Green Mountain Cemetery. We don't have escorts, but we are going to try and go in a procession from here behind the hearse. And those of you not familiar with Boulder, it's very simple. You just Cherry Vale, right on baseline, all the way up to 20th Street, left on 20th Street, and the cemetery is at the end, and you can just follow the road up to the top of the cemetery, which is where Marian will be buried next to Bill. We will complete the somber task of burying Marian, and then our attention turns once again to the mourners who just got up from Shiva a few days ago and now going back into Shiva. And Shiva will be at the Airbnb that they have rented, which is 2206 Nickel Street West. Nickel Street West, right? West Nickel Street.
East Nickel Street is a different
Okay. Nickel Street West, 2206. and there's going to be a 2-hour space from 4 till 6 for visitation, and then going to give the family some space to be on their own, have dinner, and then from 7:30 to 9:30 with a Mariv service at 7:30 and some sharing, and then the family are returning back to California tomorrow for the rest of Shiva. As with Bill, the family have asked if people feel moved to give tzedakah, to give donations in honor of Marian, to direct them towards Highest. And with that, I'm just wondering is there anything that we should know? This is Mike and John Greenwood are here from Greenwood and Myers Cemetery. I've just given directions about getting to the cemetery, but
No, we should be good. I'll go kind of slow for those following behind, but we'll just meet at the cemetery again if you miss lights. But I'll try to keep a couple of cars that are with the family kind of directly behind me.
yes, please don't run red lights without an escort. That's not safe or advised. I just ask, I know there's not a huge amount of people here, but if we can just remain seating, and the family are going to go through this door and go straight to their cars, and then we can greet them at the cemetery rather than right here. So we'll conclude our service here with a memorial prayer, the El Malei Rachamim, at the bottom of page 5. I ask you, if you're able to rise. El Malei Rachamim, Shochein Bamromim, Hamatzeh מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה, עם קדושים וטהורים כזו הרקיע, מזהירים את נשמת מלכת ציפורה בת רחל ומלך שהלכה לעולמה. בעל הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרו בצרו החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Marian, Safran, Malkut Tzipora, Bat Rachel the Melech, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in the shadow of your wings, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen. If you are coming to the cemetery, maybe take these books with you, and we'll see you there.
this room.